Now this section is not really about the LPI exams themselves. It's about preparing for the LPI exams. First thing you need to do is understand there's a set of rules. There's the official rules from LPI, and then there's the set of rules that we have come up with over the years of what are the good things to do and what are the things that are not good to do. What should you work towards and what should you avoid? First thing you need to do is think about how to study properly. Try to set aside a certain amount of time every day in order to be able to do what you need to do. You need to try every single thing on the LPI objectives, everything. Everything that you see me do, everything that you see on the page, you need to try that. You need to work out the command structure. You need to be able to answer questions about the most common items and the most common functions for that particular command or that set of files or whatever it happens to be. Another thing is you need to read a lot of books, you need to read articles, you need to get context, and if you have to, get professional help. This series, of course, constitutes some professional help. It's basically kind of a roadmap around the potholes in the road that could keep you from getting your certification. I end up being a big, giant glue machine that puts things together for people and answers questions. And it's because most people have tried for a long time, or they've kind of dabbled around in Linux. They haven't really put it all together and made something out of it. And it's nice to go and to have somebody guide you through that kind of thing. And that's really what this is for. The other thing is you want to get context. You want to read not just the things that have to do with Linux certification, but have to do with the Linux, the market overall. This is going to be really helpful for you. It's going to give you an idea of, what are the things you want to be involved in the future. Do you want to be a standard sysadmin? Do you want to focus on web? Do you want to go into database work? Do you want to be a developer? What do you want to do? So try to get context around things and try to get an idea of what's the next thing that's coming along that you might be interested in. You'll also see certifications from LPI in the various areas. They're considering doing a virtualization certification, things like that. So keep an eye on the certification space. And of course, commit yourself. In order to be able to get your certification within a certain period of time, you need to set aside that time every day. And if you're busy, then set that time aside a little bit during work, a little bit during home, whatever you can do. If you're getting your certification not just for yourself, but also for your organization, you should ask them to give you a little bit of time every day and then use that time to study. Don't use it to play Quake or whatever, but use it to study and study hard, because this certification is definitely worth getting. So the list of things not to do: please don't cheat. A lot of people will get into this situation where they talk to people about the answers to questions and what questions did you see on the exam, and at a certain point it really becomes something that's not particularly honest, and it's not very useful. You want to be able to have earned this certification straight out. You want to be proud of it, you want to be glad you got the certification, and you want to know that since it was kind of hard for you to get that certification, that not everybody's getting it. Not everybody is going to be in your market, and you earned what you got. The other thing is don't believe all the stuff you hear. There's a lot of places out there that purport to get you multiple certifications within a given week. If they tell you they can get you your LPIC certification and maybe your Linux Plus, that's doable. I've done that many times. I've seen organizations that promise they'll get 5 and 6 different certifications, including the Red Hat, including Linux Plus, including LPIC, including a Solaris certification, and it's just not possible. Unless, of course, you cheat and all you do is take the exams. So your goal should be to learn Linux, and the secondary goal should be able to prove that you have a certain set of skills, and that certification says that you're at least this good. Okay? Please try not to do too much and stress out about it and all that. If your certification is completely taking over your life, maybe you ought to take a back seat with it for a while and give it a rest sometimes. I know myself that if something is confusing to me, that I need to go take a break from it. I need to not think about it for a while, come back, take a look at it. Usually it makes a lot more sense. So don't stress yourself out unduly, but don't leave yourself alone. So get that nice balance between I need to learn this and I need not to revolve about it. LPI certification in the distributions. Long time ago, this used to be a situation where it was Red Hat and Debian. And now, of course, it's not like that anymore. Any Linux standards-based, LSB-compliant version of the operating system is going to be just fine. So you can choose whichever one you want. There are 2 package manager choices that you're going to have to learn from. There's the RPM side of packages, and there's the Debian side of packages. So this is covered in the course, and you'll see this in the objectives. It's very well delineated, very clearly laid out. So the exams are going to focus on Linux itself and you learning Linux for the vast majority. If there's a situation where it's almost impossible for them not to talk about a distribution because they're trying to find out where a file is located, then LPI will actually mention in the question what the distribution is and then ask you the question that's specific to that particular one. You see very little of this, and a lot of people have, they've gotten used to the fact that they were focused on distributions a while ago, and this is very much not true in the last couple of versions. Okay, also what I recommend is getting at least 2 or 3 different distributions for yourself to study with. You probably want to get Fedora, you probably want to get OpenSUSE, and you probably want to get Ubuntu or possibly Knoppix. So this gives you a couple of RPM-based distributions. It also gives you the Debian-based distribution, and I would recommend setting these up in virtual machines. So regardless of that, the goal here is to familiarize yourself with Linux and get your certification. Key items for success. This is just a quick bulleted list of things that I think that you really should consider as something that if you do these, you're definitely going to be successful. First thing is, try everything in the objectives. Flat out, no matter what, as many times as you can until you understand what that command is for. Keep trying it, keep trying it. And when I tell you about your hardware and the things that you need to have, you can have a regular machine that you reload all the time if you goof up. You can get some extra memory and a little extra hard drive. Get a copy of VMware Server, it's free. Download it off, use a Windows machine, it's not a big deal. But you want to get yourself a set of virtual machines that you can experiment with to see how the different distributions do when you run a particular command or look for a particular file. So installation DVDs and CDs, you can download these offline, use the ISO files, fire those up right inside of VMware and get your installation. VMware will do an automated installation of your Linux box for you and make life a lot easier. So VMware is definitely a good way to go. Snapshot your systems before you go on to the next step. So a snapshot is basically, let's take a freeze in time of my system. So I would install the system, run a snapshot, call it fresh install. Then go off and do other things with that system. If you run into trouble, then just roll it back to the snapshot from the fresh install. Get used to looking stuff up. This is an important thing. Don't sit there and look at it and go, I can't figure this out. Read the man pages. Read articles. Read everything online that you can find. The information is out there, and you will find it, and you will put it together sooner or later. You can go to the Linux Documentation Project, tldp.org. You can read the man pages. You can grab books. You can attend courses like this. You can go search in Google. There's all kinds of different things that you can possibly do in order to get that. Here's my favorite one. Don't whine about the command line. It's something you got to deal with. The command line is there. It's part of being a Linux administrator and a Unix administrator. It is a fast way to get things done. It's also a way to get things done and to script them. So if you're used to using the GUI on other operating systems, you're going to have to kind of, belly up and do this. So the command line is an important skill to have. And also, you will see that the LPI exams focus on the command line because the GUI interface, they're not the same. There's a lot of differences in the different tools and everything else, and they're very hard to test. Okay, so the last piece of this, there's always going to be multiple ways to do a particular thing. Let's say they ask you to edit a particular file. Yes, you could go and use a graphical editor and edit that file. You could also use VI. You could also use the cat command and redirect symbols in order to do it. Another one that's going to affect a lot of people is fill in the blank questions. There's questions where you have to type in something and then they match that to see if it's actually the command or the option or whatever. Be aware that when you find a fill in the blank question, you may know 2 or 3 different commands or ways to do that particular thing that's being asked. Try not to get innovative. If there's a simple one, put that one in there. If you want to get tricky, wait until you've got your own machines and you can do what you want in your environment. So I just wanted to give you some tips and tricks for being successful with the exams. Now what I'd like to do is go ahead and let's get started with the actual information about the exams themselves.